Okay, I'm back. Time for Exodus, beginning with chapter 13, where we left off. And for these, I'm going to be reading maybe, on and off. So then I have a lot of notes for other parts. So, we'll see. So here we have this part about the firstborn. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine. So, this is just about the firstborn, and that's also another. Let me get this list here. Another type. Blessing on the firstborn son is another one that's a type or a prophecy that's messianic. So there's that. And then, all right, next is this thing is the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. So it just goes into detail with that. And like I said, all the feasts are a type of Christ. Everything he does, he fulfills these things. So Passover, unleavened bread, the first fruits, and Pentecost have all been fulfilled already. And then the last three in the fall are fulfilled in the end times, coinciding with, the events of Revelation and the return. So anyway, again, I just wanted to mention that. Yeah. And then the law of the firstborn, the same thing, just their rules about this. A lot of this is, little rules they had to follow based on this. Okay, that one. Okay, this one, yeah. Okay, so that's just more about firstborn and rules. Now, here, then it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the land of Egypt. So they're leaving Egypt. I don't know where these places are in the sense of the wilderness or land of the Philistines or the wilderness by the Red Sea. What could have been such an area then may not be such an area now. So we wouldn't recognize it as such today, according to what it was back then. So that I wouldn't know, but looking at the map, they have some, projected paths that they took, but I don't know exactly how accurate they are now. And it can only be one of them, of course, but it might not be any of them. Who knows? But I know they crossed the Red Sea, and it was a miracle. The water parted, and they crossed on the dry land, like the seafloor. That's all that, I know. So the rest, whatever. And Moses took, here we go, the bones, right? And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had placed the children of Israel under solemn oath, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here with you. So this is another sort of type of the resurrection in a roundabout way. But anyway, his bones go up. He wants that, and of course, he was never really at home there, so I can understand that. So they took their journey from Succoth and camped in Etham at the edge of wait, I have another note here. Huh. Okay, never mind about that one, but okay. Oh, okay. That's different. Okay. I just have to now and then take a peek, see that I'm not passing something. Anyway, the wilderness. So they went at the edge of the wilderness. Yeah. Okay. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day or the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Okay. And there's a lot of symbolism. I'm just going to read this chapter first before I get into all of that. Okay, now here we go. They're going to cross the Red Sea. Now, 14. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Pi Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal Zephon. You shall camp before it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are bewildered by the land. The wilderness has closed them in. Then I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them, and I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over all his army, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Now it was told the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. Also he took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, with captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with boldness. So the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, and overtook them, camping by the sea beside Pi Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, now this is where it really starts. This kind of complaining and whining and doubting, and it just goes on and on. Okay, they said to Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, Let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And this is their attitude the whole way. Okay, he delivers them from slavery, and they have this griping, complaining attitude the whole way up. And to me, that seems like people who don't want to leave the world, right? It was all so good. Okay. And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. So he's pretty nice here. He's not mad at them, which I could understand if he was. But anyway, do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. I like the way this reads, It's like stand back and watch the salvation of God as he delivers you. Just wait and see the miracle that's going to happen, I just love the way that reads. And by the way, the real miracle is salvation of your soul, salvation from the power of sin over your life. That is the miracle, okay? If you're not walking in that, then all the other things are of no avail, okay? There are people that, there's so much talk now about, these people with, your miracle is coming, and you're going to have a breakthrough, and woo, as if what's right around the corner is some wonderful life of success in the world. You're finally going to have victory over, your enemies in the corporate world. Something like that. It's like that's not what it's about, but they want to paint everything for them in a carnal, worldly way, and that's not the miracle. We're going to have trouble in this life, and that's the reality we were told by him. So this, is a type of salvation of our soul. That's the miracle, and that's really it. So, and the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward. But lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I indeed will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gained honor for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." And there's something in, like, I noticed this in life about stepping out by faith in something. It's almost like, you put your foot out, and it's almost like you're going to cross a bridge, and those planks of wood fall into place just in time. Your foot gets there, and okay, the plank is there now. Good, that's good to know. And it can get kind of scary. I've been in these situations, but the bridge always formulates and materializes, and you go from one side to the other of some kind of a canyon. And in life, there are things like that where God leads you in and out of situations, and that's another thing. Okay, so anyway, but that's a thing. All right. And the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. And now remember, they left in the evening, so this is all at night. It's all in the dark. They don't see a whole lot. And Passover is done on a full moon, so the first one must have been a full moon, which would make sense too, right? The more moonlight they get, the better. So it all was worked out this way. It's interesting. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. So that's how dramatic it was. This wasn't like, a tide change or something. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now, it came to pass in the morning watch that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians, and he took off their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." I mean, this is where you gotta say, like, really, do you think? Like, this shouldn't have been the first clue, right? Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and when the morning appeared, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. So, Israel goes through on dry ground. Once they're out at the other end, the Egyptians were pursuing them, and they were right in the midst of that depth of it all, and that's when the waters went back together. So they never made it to the other side, right? They drowned. And I mean, this is even better than them being back in Egypt, because who knows what trouble they would still have tried to cause. This way, that's taken care of. So no more problems, right? And anyway, so the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Thus Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt. So the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. Okay, so they're starting to believe. That's good. Now, and then, all the destruction in Egypt, it's like, well, they served them for so long and were enslaved. So it's like, instead of the place being prospered, then it was destroyed when they left. So, I mean, I see justice in these things. I mean, you got to really look at the whole situation many times. And people, many times, they're just skeptical and they're critical and they want to find fault with everything, but they don't really know the situation. If they really evaluate the whole picture, which sometimes isn't even possible now, but at least try, then it makes more sense. Oh, wait a minute, but they were taken advantage of over here and over there, and well, that's different, So, anyway, lots of things people don't think about. But okay, now 15. So this one, the whole thing is just a praise song for their deliverance. And that line comes up about the horse and its rider were cast into the sea, which comes up as well. And I think it's also in Revelation, but it comes up somewhere else in regard to that. So this whole thing is that now, Okay, picking up here, for the horses of Pharaoh went with his chariots and his horsemen into the sea, and the Lord brought back the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. Okay, and then here we have the Song of Miriam. So she is the sister of Moses, and she has a little song too over here. Okay, so here's her little song. Okay, now we get to more events here. Okay, so Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. Then they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Now, when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah, which means bitter. And the people complained against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. When he cast it into the waters were made sweet. So, okay, there he made a statue and an ordinance for them, and there he tested them and said, "If you diligently heed the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his sight, give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you which I have brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you." Okay, so they had diseases put on them for their ways, okay? Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, so they camped there by the waters. Okay, now we get to the manna. 16, and they journeyed from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin. And yeah, I don't know who comes up with these names. I just don't know. But you gotta wonder about them. Okay, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt. Then the whole congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, "Oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." So it goes on and on. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain quota every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. And it shall be on the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily." Okay, so this is where the manna gets introduced. And it's interesting too, like manna is a type of the Word of God, okay? And you had the bread of life too, of course, but in this case, I want to focus on the Word of God. And it's like they were supposed to get a certain amount every day. And they would get double on a certain day because they were supposed to keep the Sabbath. I mean, we don't have this because we're not under the law, but they were supposed to do that. So they were not supposed to collect manna on that day. So on the day before, they were given twice as much so that the next day they had it already and they didn't have to get it. So that's what's going on here. Okay. And another thing about manna is they complained about it. That, it didn't really taste like anything. Okay. They compared it to just wafers with honey. Like, it didn't have much of a taste. Apparently it had all the nutrients they needed, but it didn't taste like much. And they could only, if they took more than they needed, it wouldn't last. But the thing about it is, this reminds me so much of also the Word of God, in the sense that, people, well, here, first of all, this testing them to see, it's like the Word of God. We get it. And it's like God is seeing, are we actually going to do it, or just let it go in one ear and out the other? But many people complain like that the Bible is bland, right? And only it has all the nutrients they need spiritually. And that's what they need. But for many people, oh, that's too boring for them. They need something exciting, right? So they go out and look for all these other books. And I've seen this, these Christian bookstores that are full of these books, and it's all a bunch of nonsense. 99% of it, at least. Most of it is just a bunch of, false teaching and focusing on the flesh and how you can make your life on earth better. All this, false teaching about calling blessings into your life, and it's false. It's false. Anyway, prosperity gospel, all this nonsense. Anyway, these books, like, they'll go after these books like hotcakes, right? But they don't even know the Bible. Like, how do you even know then what that book is reading has anything of truth in it if you have nothing to compare it to that is the truth? That's why you need to read the Bible first before, so you can test other things by it. That's the standard. And that's what this makes me think of. This comes up later, like they complain, like it's boring, it's bland, it doesn't have any flavor, and they complain they don't have the meat, and I don't have the leeks and the onions and the garlic and all that. They complain, and it's like, this is what they, in this case, it symbolizes, that, like, that's what you need, the Bible, not all these other books. Okay, the Bible has all the spiritual vitamins you need. That's where you'll grow, that's where you'll learn. And these other books will just, not only are they empty of that, but they'll lead you astray from the truth. Mark my word, there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, most of the books you find in a Christian bookstore aren't worth a penny when it comes to spiritual things like, God's truth. So anyway, just wanted to mention that parallel. So it comes up in more ways later. Okay, so yeah, twice as much as they gathered daily. So this was that. Then Moses and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, at evening you shall know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord. For he hears your complaints against the Lord. But what are we that you complain against us? Also Moses said, this shall be seen when the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to the full. For the Lord hears your complaints which you make against him. And what are we? Your complaints are not against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses spoke to Aaron, say to all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he has heard your complaints. Now it came to pass, as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I have heard the complaints of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, At twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God. So it was that quail came up at evening and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay all around the camp. And when the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance, as fine as frost on the ground. So when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, What is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Let every man gather it according to each one's need. 1 omer for each person, according to the number of persons. Let every man take for those who are in his tent. Okay, now this is like, symbolic too, like the bread that came down from heaven, which is Jesus. So this symbolizes that. And they were told, don't take more than you need, and don't take less than you need. And that's another principle when you walk in the Christian life. You see these people out there, just their hands greedily grabbing everything they can get a hold of. But what about the other person who needs something and maybe they don't have a chance to get anything? A good principle to live by is don't take more than you need, okay? Leave enough for the other people. And if you do that, you'll always have enough. That's how it's been for me, okay? But they were supposed to take enough for their household as well. So then the children of Israel did so and gathered some more, some less. So they're still learning. So when they measured it by omers, he who gathered much had nothing left over. And isn't that how it is, right? And he who gathered little had no lack. So everybody had just enough. Every man had gathered according to each one's need. And Moses said, Let no one leave any of it till morning. Most likely this is another type, right? Notwithstanding, they did not heed Moses, but some of them left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was angry with them. So they gathered it every morning, every man according to his need. And when the sun became hot, it melted. So this symbolizes like the word of God. You need some every day, a certain amount. And there's certain vitamins like this. Like I heard about orange juice. Like you can't store it up. You can't drink more on one day, so that you'll have enough the next day. And if you take too much, it doesn't help you any more than if you have a certain amount. You just need a set amount every day, and then that's it. And you can't store it up. And there are other vitamins, mostly they do get stored, but this vitamin C isn't that way. So that's why with orange juice, they say, just have a little bit every morning. And just on a health note, I do have a little orange juice every morning, and it really does help you from getting sick. So that is a good practice if you're into health. But okay. Anyway, and so it was on the 6th day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses, Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord has said. Tomorrow is a Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake today, and boil what you will boil, and lay up for yourselves all that remains to be kept until morning." So they laid it up till morning, as Moses commanded, and it did not stink, nor were there any worms in it. See, so there was an exception made in that case. Then Moses said, "Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will be none." Now it happened that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather, but they found none. And the Lord said to Moses, "How long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore he gives you on the 6th day bread for 2 days. Let every man remain in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day." So the people rested on the 7th day. Okay, so, they were still learning, like, okay, if they break the rules, it's not going to work out, These were the rules. The best thing is just to do that. Like, if you're supposed to take double, take double. If you take less and you think you're going to go the next day and get some, there will be no more. So, I think they call that testing the boundaries, right? So they were still learning. Anyway, they learned. And the house of Israel called its name manna. And that means, like, what is it? Like, what is this, right? That's what it means. And it was like white coriander seed. And the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. So then Moses said, "This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Fill an omer with it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." So they kept a sample and put it in the tabernacle as a historical artifact, And that one obviously would have remained preserved. And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a pot and put an omer of manna in it, and lay it up before the Lord to be kept for your generations, as the Lord commanded Moses." So Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept, and the children of Israel ate manna 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is 1/10 of an ephah. Okay. Now 17. Now, another thing. Some say 40 years is the span of a generation. And there's something interesting that comes up about that because, they were in the wilderness for 40 years. And there's something about that. So I'll get to that. I have a list. And I'll get to that today. Okay, now 17. Then all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the commandment of the Lord, and camped in Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people contended with Moses and said, "Give us water that we may drink." So Moses said to them, "Why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt the Lord?" And the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moses and said, "Why is it you have brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." And the Lord said to Moses, "Go on before the people and take with you some of the elders of Israel. Also take in your hand your rod with which you struck the river, and go. Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock in Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water will come out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. So he called the name of the place Massah, and Meribah, that's tempted and contention, because of the contention of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? Okay, so this water from the rock is also a type of Christ, because the rock was struck, it was smitten, and water comes out. So it's like living water. And another title of Christ is rock, the rock. So anyway, it all is another type. Now, Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, Choose us some men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And so it was, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands became heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, Write this for a memorial in the book, and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and called its name, The Lord is my banner. For he said, Because the Lord has sworn, the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So, okay. Now, let me see what this is here. Yeah, it just gives it in Hebrew. This is what it means, though, this thing. So, okay. All right, nothing else there. Let's see, 42. Okay, so now I'm going to stop this video and go into the next one. But let me look at these notes real quick here. Okay. I talked about the rock. All right, these are later. Now, this comes in another video. That's later. Here I have things. Let me pull this out. Okay. That. And this, okay, this actually comes up in the next one. So I talked about that. Okay, I have the other notes for the next one, so I'll be right back.